Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to pause for a moment and truly take in the gravity of what I'm about to say. Because what I'm talking about tonight isn't theory, speculation, or some kind of dramatized prediction meant to provoke fear for the sake of fear. No. What I'm going to walk you through is a pattern. An observable, repeatable, undeniable pattern that has repeated itself throughout history with terrifying consistency. And the title of this speech says it clearly. This always is what happens right before everything collapses. Now when I say collapse, I'm not just talking about economic downturns or market corrections. I'm not just talking about political unrest or a decline in morals. I mean total, systemic, society-wide collapse, where the structures that people once believed were permanent suddenly come crashing down. Where the stable becomes volatile. Where the powerful become powerless. Where the things we took for granted, peace, order, resources, leadership, are no longer available. We've seen it happen to empires, to nations, to civilizations. And yes, the uncomfortable truth is, we're not exempt. And every time, without fail, there is a familiar set of warning signs that precede the fall. But here's the strangest thing. We almost always ignore them. We dismiss them. We rationalize them away until it's too late. That, in itself, is part of the cycle. The first thing that always happens before collapse is a kind of collective arrogance. People start to believe that the good times will go on forever. That what we've built is too big, too sophisticated, too advanced to fail. Sound familiar? We've seen this before. Think about ancient Rome at its height. People thought it would rule the world forever. They had roads, armies, trade, culture, governance, everything a superpower needs. And yet, not only did it fall, it decayed from within long before it was conquered from without. That's important to understand. Collapse almost never comes from outside first. It begins inside. Right before collapse, there's always a turning point where a society begins to eat itself from the inside. Institutions begin to corrode. Corruption incréase. Leaders stop leading and start indulging. They become more concerned with appearances, with staying in power, with pleasing crowds or elites, than they are with doing the hard work of governance. When that happens, when leadership becomes theater, collapse is already on the horizon. At the same time, the people, the masses, start to change too. They become divided. Distrust grows. There is always a rise in tribalism before collapse. Us versus them. Rich versus poor. Left versus right. Race against race. Faith against faith. And instead of seeking unity, we seek validation for our side and demonization of the other. You cannot hold a society together when everyone believes the other half of the population is their enemy. And yet, every time before collapse, this is exactly the kind of cultural rot that takes hold. There's also a rise in decadence, cultural and personal. People begin to prioritize pleasure over responsibility. Entertainment becomes more important than education. Celebrity becomes more influential than wisdom. Materialism replaces meaning. People seek distraction from the emptiness growing inside them, because they can sense, even subconsciously, that something is wrong, but they don't want to face it. So they scroll more, consume more, escape more. But you cannot outconsume the consequences of neglect. You cannot numb your way out of collapse. Right before everything collapses, there is also a breakdown of truth. Lies become normalized. Propaganda becomes standard. People stop trusting facts, and facts become politicized. Science gets twisted to fit agendas. Journalism becomes performative. And in that vacuum of truth, misinformation flourishes. Not just by accident, but intentionally. Because the more confused people are, the easier they are to manipulate. This is not new. Authoritarian regimes have always exploited this chaos to consolidate power. When people don't know what's real, they stop resisting. They give up. They check out. And that's exactly the moment when those in power can rewrite the rules. There's another thing that always happens. Economically, there's a distortion of value. It begins subtly. Currencies inflate. Debt balloons. The gap between rich and poor widens until it's a chasm. Those who have take more. Those who don't get desperate. The middle class, if there ever was one, starts shrinking. And as the economy becomes more unstable, people start gambling instead of building. You see it in the form of speculative bubbles. Housing, stocks, crypto, tech. People stop investing in real value and start chasing quick wins because they know, deep down, that the system is unsustainable. So they try to get what they can before the music stops. And history tells us this very clearly. The music always stops. Before collapse, there's also an increase in distraction. An explosion of noise. Entertainment, controversy, scandal, and spectacle dominate the collective consciousness. Bread and circuses, as the Romans called it, keep the people fed and entertained, and they won't notice the rot beneath their feet. And for a time, it works. But eventually, the cracks can no longer be hidden. The debt is due. The resources run low. The trust is gone. And then, the illusion shatters. Another piece of the pattern is war, or the threat of it. Whether it's civil unrest or global conflict, a society on the verge of collapse always becomes more militarized. Sometimes it's a way to distract from domestic failure. Other times it's because the breakdown at home makes aggression abroad more likely. Either way, the drums start beating louder. People get polarized even further. Fear rises. And in times of fear, people will trade almost anything for a false sense of security, even their freedom. But I need to emphasize something here. Collapse isn't just one dramatic moment like in the movies. It doesn't always come with a bang. More often, it comes in stages. Quiet, subtle, corrosive. It's not an explosion. It's a slow erosion. A hollowing out. And by the time people realize it's happening, they're already knee-deep in it. And here's the most damning part of the pattern. Those who see it coming are almost always ignored, ridiculed, or silenced. Truth-tellers are called alarmists. Whistleblowers are labeled extremists. People don't want to believe that collapse is possible, so they lash out at the messengers instead of facing the message. And that denial, that is the final stage before the fall.
When no one is listening anymore.
When the lies have become more comforting than the truth. When the ship is sinking and the band is still playing. So what can we do? What's the point of pointing all this out if we're just doomed to repeat it? The point is this: patterns can be broken, but only if they are recognized. We cannot fix what we will not face. And we cannot prepare for what we refuse to acknowledge. Collapse is not inevitable. But if we keep walking the same path, we will end up at the same destination. We need to wake up.
Not tomorrow.
Not next year. Now. That means reevaluating what we value. Do we care more about status than substance? Are we more loyal to our tribes than to truth? Are we educating ourselves or just echoing what we're told? Are we consuming more than we create? Are we more interested in blaming than building? It also means holding leaders accountable. Refusing to accept corruption as normal.
Demanding integrity, not just charisma.
Leadership must once again mean service, not self-enrichment. And we, as people, must stop worshiping those who entertain us and start honoring those who enlighten us. We also have to reconnect with one another. The divisions that are being stoked, by media, by politics, by algorithms, are not accidental. They're designed to keep us weak. We must learn to talk again.
Not just shout. To listen again.
Not just perform. To disagree without destroying. Unity doesn't mean uniformity, but it does require mutual respect. We have to rebuild trust.
Without it, no system survives.
And finally, we have to get serious about truth.
Not convenient truth. Not partisan truth. Actual, grounded, objective truth.
That means being willing to question what we've been taught.
It means turning off the noise. Reading more. Thinking more.
Asking hard questions. Because only an informed people can prevent a collapse. Ignorance is not bliss. It's a blueprint for disaster. We are at a critical moment. Maybe it's not the moment yet, but make no mistake, the signs are here.
The arrogance. The division.
The debt.
The distraction. The erosion of truth. The rise of spectacle.
The dismissal of warnings.
Itzoliar.
And if history has taught us anything, it's this.